Good morning. I'd like to thank you for coming today. Today we have representatives from the two organizations the Mission Committee has selected to focus for our summer mission project. Before we begin, I would like to open with a prayer. Dear Lord, we thank you that we have the opportunity this morning to hear from the People's Pantry and Family Promise of Rochester about the good work they are doing in our community. Open our ears and our hearts to hear their message this morning and show us how we can help their ministry through our summer mission collection this year. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, our first presenter is going to be Mike Durfee. He's representing People's Pantry, which provides food for those in need. And our second presenter will be Kim Hunt-Uselik. She is here from Family Promise of Greater Rochester. She'll be providing details on how they assist families in need of finding housing and becoming more independent. After they have both presented, we'll open it up for questions and answers. So, welcome, Mike. Oh, Kim's going to go first. Okay.
Which is the one you put up first. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Thank you for having me here. So I'm going to be talking about Family Promise of Greater Rochester today, formerly known as RAIN. Anybody familiar with RAIN? Okay. We changed our name in 2021 just to align with National Family Promise, which is based in New Jersey. We are part of a national organization. We don't receive any funding from the national organization, but there are over 200 affiliates like ours throughout the United States, one in Alaska and one in Hawaii, all doing the same work. So as I'm describing the work that we're doing, just know that there are affiliates all over the United States that are doing similar work. I need to point it, or? There we go. Okay. So I want to start the presentation today with our mission and vision. We often start meetings, whether it's a staff meeting, board meeting, committee meeting, with reading our mission and vision to remind us of why we're gathered. So as you can see, our mission, Family Promise of Greater Rochester will assist families at risk of or experiencing homelessness to achieve sustainable independence by providing person-centered, holistic services in collaboration with the greater community. And our vision, Family Promise of Greater Rochester will have achieved success when affordable, decent, equitable housing is seen as a human right and every family has a place to call home. Okay, there we go. We are a small but mighty staff of 5 currently. We have here myself with the scarf, and then Aisha DaCosta is to my right, and then Jenny Blaze, Letitia, Beth is no longer with us, and then that's Leonette next to me. So we get a lot done. As I talk about what we do every day, you'll realize that we get a lot done with a very small staff. Our offices are located in the Beechwood neighborhood, right next to the public market. For those of you that are familiar with downtown, it's off of East Main on the corner of Webster Avenue and Parcells. We've been there since 2017. We've actually been around for 20 years, so we're celebrating our 20th anniversary this year. We were before that on Meg Street renting a home from 3rd Presbyterian, and we moved, like I said, to the Webster Avenue location in 2017. So it's a fairly big office space. We have the whole first floor, which is what we use for offices. And then on the second floor, there are 4 apartments, which I'll talk about a little later. So we have 4 core programs that we offer to the community. In order to be eligible for any of these programs, you have to have custodial care of a child 18 years of age or younger. So our first program that you see is our shelter program. So families that are facing homelessness can call us for a shelter placement. We used to house families in congregational space. For those of you that know RAIN, know that we used to use that model of housing families in a congregation such as this one for a week at a time. That changed with COVID, like everything did, right? So we quickly switched to motels because we had families in the program when COVID seemed to hit Rochester like a bomb, right? When that happened in March of 2020, we started using hotel space in Greece. That was not sustainable for us. It was too expensive and not great for a family of 5 sleeping in a hotel room. So we moved to using apartments in the community for shelter. And we're still doing that. We didn't return to the congregational model. It took us about 6 months to make that decision. It was not an easy decision. That model worked beautifully for us for 17 years, and it was a great way to bring community together. A lot of suburban congregations were a part of that community, so it brought together folks from the suburbs and people who predominantly live in the city, and it was a beautiful way to see different walks of life and bring people together in community. So now we are using shelter apartments. It is more family-centered. It is more trauma-informed. It's easier for the families not to have to move from congregation to congregation each week, which is the largest reason we decided to stay with the apartments. So we have 6 apartments in the Rochester community. We have some on Portland Avenue and a few on Ketchum Street. So families stay there for as long as they need to get back into permanent housing. And while they're with us in the shelter program, they work with social workers to work on moving towards permanent housing or whatever else they need help with, whether it's finding health care or getting kids back re-enrolled in school, advocacy, tangible goods, household goods, food, really whatever they need while they're with us. Aftercare and stabilization is actually how I started my work at Family Promise in 2010. So I've been with the organization for 14 years. I came in as the aftercare social worker. Aftercare is really what sets us apart as an organization. So we provide a year of aftercare and stabilization services for any family that transitions from our shelter into permanent housing. Our families are living in poverty. 70% of them are employed. They are the working poor in our community. So when they move from shelter into permanent housing, they need someone to walk alongside them for that year to make sure that they don't fall back into homelessness. That first year can be kind of precarious when you're moving into permanent housing after leaving the crisis of homelessness. So that's what the aftercare and stabilization program, it walks alongside families for that year to provide them with advocacy if needed. We have good relationships with landlords. So if they fall behind in rent during that year, we can talk to the landlord and set up a payment plan and help them with those arrears, so that kind of thing. And then our largest program currently is our prevention and diversion program. We started this program in 2019, and with COVID, it just increased exponentially. We were part of the 17 organizations in Monroe County that gave away ERAP and EPI funding. I don't know if any of you have heard of that. It was some rescue plan money that was given to all of the states for folks that fell behind in rent during COVID. We gave out, our organization gave out $1.7 million in Monroe County for people who are behind in rent. So that program is over, but we continue our prevention and diversion program. We continue to see a lot of families who are struggling. There is a true housing crisis in our society, and it's here in Rochester as well. The cost of housing, as you've probably seen, has risen. The cost of rental apartments has increased. So it's harder and harder for families to retain housing and to pay rent each month. So if a family, let's say, is working and we just had someone who had pneumonia, so they were out of work for a month. Their doctor took them out of work. They don't have sick time. They don't have paid vacation. So when they were out of work, they still had their job, but they weren't paid for that time out of work. So they lost a paycheck. They lived paycheck to paycheck, and when you miss a paycheck, they fell behind in rent. So we have this program that provides 1 month of arrears payment or a security deposit. If a family has lost their housing, they can get a security deposit to get back into housing. We're one of 2 organizations right now in Monroe County that has funding like this, so you can imagine. Our phones are ringing off the hook, like literally. We have an online portal where you can request assistance. It's open right now. It opens on the 1st of every month and closes on the 3rd, and we get about 200 requests in those 3 days. We can help about 12 households a month, so it's about 5% of those requesting we're able to assist. So it gives you an idea of the need in our community. And then we just started our transitional housing program last year. So you saw the picture of 142 Webster Avenue. On the 2nd floor, there are 4 apartments. That's one of the reasons we bought the building that we're in right now. So we started a transitional housing program for 2 years. Someone signs a lease with us. They pay below market value rent. So I just said how expensive apartments are. A 1-bedroom apartment in the transitional housing program is $550. A 3-bedroom is $750. So a 2-bedroom is $650. That's way below market value rent right now. We've renovated all of the apartments. They're beautiful. I think I have this is our shelter apartments. And then I'll get to the transitional housing apartments in a minute. I don't want to skip all this. So they can spend 2 years with us and move towards greater sustainability, whether that's home ownership, perhaps, or getting on some subsidized housing lists. But the goal of that program is to move the family towards greater self-sufficiency and sustainability of housing. Just some quick statistics about the prevention and diversion, which I mentioned. We get 4,000 requests. We distributed $122,000 in 2023 for an average payment of $1,002 per household. So here's our transitional housing program. So you can see this apartment that was renovated. This is a 3-bedroom. Right now we have 3 out of the 4 apartments available. The 4th apartment is tenant occupied by someone who's been there 20 years. So it's not really part of our transitional housing program. We will be announcing in the next few weeks a partnership with another local organization where we're going to acquire 2 more buildings in the Beechwood, Market View Heights neighborhoods that will add to our transitional housing program, because that's what we need in this community. We need housing. As you can probably attest to, we need more affordable, decent, equitable housing. A few more pictures of another apartment. We put new flooring in, we painted. This was mostly volunteer driven. We renovated 3 apartments for $11,000, which is pretty great. So I do want to say that this presentation can take up to 50 minutes to an hour, so we're not going to go through everything. I have this presentation, I do a lot of presenting, so I just kind of pick slides based on how much time I have, but I do want to take some time on this slide, and this is where it becomes interactive. So what words or images come to your mind when you think of home? Security, safety, comfort. Yes, all really important, right? Accessibility. Yep. Family. Yes. So when I go home today, I'm going to return to my house that I've had for 25 years. I feel very blessed. My husband's there. He'll probably be, I don't know, maybe reading the paper. He might be outside. It's not raining. My 2 little dogs will come running up to me. It'll probably smell like coffee. All of my things are there that I've gathered over the 25 years. My blankets that I've knit, and it's very comfortable, and my plants, and you know, it's my home. It's my stability. When I've had a bad day, I go open that front door and I step into safety and security and warmth and family. And imagine not having that. That's our foundation, right? Isn't that like almost everything? Family, safety, security are things that mean so much to us. So many of the families that we work with every day don't have that. So I want to just spend the rest of our time today going back through our vision statement and talking about what that truly means and the impact of each of those things on our families that we see every day. So our vision statement will have achieved success when affordable, decent, equitable housing is seen as a human right and every family has a place to call home. So the first thing is affordable housing. What were we all taught to spend on housing? A third. That's right. That's what my dad taught me. He said, Kimberly, you never spend more than 30%. I don't even know if that's realistic anymore, but that's what I was taught. So that's affordable housing. That is set by HUD, the federal HUD, Department of Housing at the federal government. So if a family gets a subsidy, it's 33% of their income that they spend on housing. And that's how it should be, right? So our families are spending 80 to 90% of their income on housing. 80 to 90%. So it's not affordable. And then decent. We talked about decent housing, right? We talked about housing that is safe, that is has security. We don't have to worry that the screens are in the windows or there aren't holes in the walls. So decent housing. I've seen some atrocious housing. We've had families call us where they say there's a waterfall in my living room. Like there's water coming through my living room ceiling. One family called us this year and kind of jokingly, it wasn't funny, but it's sometimes all you can do is laugh, said there's a hole in my wall and it's not a window. I can see outside and it's not a window. We had a family a few years ago whose front door, she couldn't even get out the front door because it was iced over and you couldn't, talk about access, she couldn't get in and out of her front door, it was iced over because there was a leak coming through the ceiling in the front of the house. And I don't want to say anything, landlords are strapped. COVID was hard for landlords. A lot of folks fell behind on their rent and COVID was hard on landlords. And I think we're caught in this cycle right now where landlords feel like they don't have the funds to fix up housing. And they're families are beholden to housing. They'll take whatever they can get. So we often have families, we try to prevent this, but we often have families moving into housing that's not decent, that we would not live in. It's just a reality of what we're seeing. Oh, and equitable housing. So that is housing that's available to all, regardless of religion, gender expression, ethnicity, sex, race. So what we're seeing is, so if a family has a Section 8 voucher, which is exactly what you want when you're living in poverty, because that's 33% that you're paying. But a lot of landlords won't take Section 8 vouchers any longer. It's not legal to say no, I won't accept a voucher, but a lot of landlords will say no, I don't accept vouchers. So we're finding that housing is not really equitable either. It's tough out there. It's getting tougher, isn't it? Yeah, every day is a challenge. I'm really grateful to the staff that I showed you a picture of. We keep each other afloat. We laugh a lot. We cry together on the days we need to cry. It's really rough out there. So I'm so grateful to you today that congregations like this have opened your hearts to hear these stories. They're not easy to hear. It's not easy to hear that there's hardships happening in our community and they're getting worse. But we have to face them. It's the reality. And it's all about shared humanity and seeing each other as humans. I haven't kept track of time, so okay, let's see, let's go to the, so we'll continue on with some stats in Rochester. So the average rent of a one-bedroom apartment in Rochester is about $10.50. And a TANF grant, which is what a lot of us know as well, a welfare grant, so temporary assistance to needy families, is for a family of 3 is $786. So you can see it doesn't add up. The cost of rent has increased by 25.6. It increased by 25.6% in 2023. The overall poverty rate, let's skip to the third one, in Rochester is 31.3% compared to a national average of 12.3%. It's pretty bad in Rochester. So let's actually end on this slide. So this is an actual budget of a family that we had in the shelter program, and I think this really depicts perfectly what a lot of families are coming in with. So this mom works. She works at minimum wage. She works 35 hours a week. So it's about $27,300 a year, about $1,800 net. So she's spending 55% of her income on rent. So her rent is $1,000. She pays $200 in utilities. You can see her car payment. Families pay a lot for cars. And what we see is that families will pay for a car before they pay rent if they're strapped and they have to choose between one, because a car gets you to work. And if they lose the apartment or the housing, they can sleep in the car. And that's what a lot of families are doing. They hang on to those jobs. Phone, internet, so the total you can see is $1,746, the balance is $74. So what's missing from this budget? Right, so chances are this mom receives SNAP benefits. SNAP benefits usually take you through 2 weeks. So you have 2 weeks of groceries on SNAP benefits. So yes, the next 2 weeks you're paying for food. It's a family of 3, so 2 kids. So what else isn't in this budget? Any extracurriculars for the kids? Let's say the kids said they need money for a field trip. You know, those little things that come up. A trip to CVS, right, to get shampoo and anything you need for household, toilet paper, anything like that. There's a lot missing from this budget. If we think about our own budgets, there's a lot missing. So just a reiteration that families are living on the edge. And I guess I'll just end, because I feel like every time I do these presentations, it's like, oh, it's so depressing. We see a lot of joy. We still see a lot of joy in families. They're just, like I said, shared humanity. They're families just like ours, right? They'll come in with their kids, and the kids are so fun and full of joy. And I think that's what we just need to remember, is that they're families just like ours. And we do get a lot of joy every day by interacting and helping families move to that next step in their life, which is ideally housing that they can stay in, that becomes a home, that has all of those things that we talked about: security, safety, family, warmth. So thank you so much. And do we want to take questions at the end, or? Okay.
Hello, everybody. Okay. All right. So my name is Mike Durfee. I am the executive director of the People's Pantry. We are located at 555 Avenue D. It's located right behind the Lincoln Library in the northeast quadrant of the city. So we have a small staff as well. We have 3 employees. I'm the only full-time employee. We have 2 part-time employees as well. And we are open 3 days a week, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. That's when we provide service for the community. We are a small staff, but a large number of volunteers. So we have about 50, 60 volunteers that come on a regular basis. So it's a real community-based organization. And one of our goals is to just provide food for people. We don't ask questions. If you need food, we provide that once a month. And we see a lot of families. Similar to Kim, we see working poor families, people that are struggling to get by on a small income, but they work hard and they're members of the community just like everyone else. They just need a little help. So I'm going to start by giving kind of a description of what's going on in Rochester, and then tell a little bit more about what we do. So, yeah, so some of the definitions and causes of food insecurity, a lot of it comes from poverty, unemployment, and high housing costs. You know, we saw the budget on Kim's presentation. There's not a lot of money left over at the end of the month for people to pay for food, especially if they're on minimum wage. So government assistance also can play a role in that. We see a lot of people who have families, really low income, and then they're receiving about $20 a month. I think the minimum is $23, and some full families will receive $23 a month. Okay. Thank you. So I saw on Wegmans the other day a cookie cake was $20. So think about having a kid, they have a birthday, you want to buy a cake, you don't have the money, a cookie cake is $20. So we're seeing, and especially in Rochester, so Rochester is a food desert. There's the Tops over on Upper Falls Boulevard. There's an Aldi, Price Right, and Wegmans over in the East Ave neighborhood. But other than that, you're pretty much seeing bodegas and small corner stores that don't provide fresh food. And one of the problems with low-cost food is it's also the least nutritious, which I'll get into in a little bit. So we see the impact of food insecurity. It's not only that people are going hungry, but it can cause a lot of strain in the household. And specifically, if you can't provide food for your family, that's one of the basic needs that people have. You got to eat 3 meals a day. So if you wake up, you can't feed your kids, you have a spouse, you're upset, it causes ripples through the family that go pretty deep. So you see a lot of emotional distress as well as strained relationships within families. It's one of the things that we enjoy to do. You provide income and you provide for your family, and when you can't do that, it's really hard. So Rochester is among the highest, in cities across the U.S., some of the highest child poverty rates. 48.2% of children in Rochester live in poverty. So they don't know where their next meal is going to come from. And that can cause a lot of harm to a child in their developmental phases. If you think you're not getting enough nutrition, you're going to school every day without basic nutrition, your brain develops differently than someone who has that nutrition. So we see a lot of health concerns in the community, and then as well as the academic performance. If you're not firing at all cylinders, it's hard for you to develop, especially, we all know children, it's pivotal in those young years. So So the community level effects of food insecurity, it ripples throughout the entire community. So we see negative impacts on local economies, healthcare systems, and social cohesion. If you're not eating nutritious food, it can lead to things like diabetes, heart disease. We try to focus on healthy food, so bringing in fresh produce for families that might not be able to purchase that. It's really expensive to buy organic produce, but we all know that to be the best that you can eat. So pre-made meals, frozen food is not going to provide the nutrition that people really need to lead healthy lives. And we see that in the healthcare field as well. So in Monroe County, 9% of Monroe County residents face food insecurity. Most neighborhoods are food deserts, And the 3 zip codes that we serve the most are 14621, a 30% food insecurity rate, which is outrageous. 14605 has a 35% food insecurity rate, and 14609 a 19% food insecurity rate. So this is a picture of the People's Pantry. We have a beautiful mural that was painted on the wall. Edgar Santa Cruz, he was killed in a hit and run accident last year, a really amazing member of the community. That's the line when we start the day. So you see about 20 families already lined up to get food. That's mostly every day at our food pantry. I'm just gonna grab. So the People's Pantry, in the last year, so I've been a member of the staff for about a year, and we've had some really amazing progress on some new initiatives. So one of the things we try to do is we do food service 3 days a week, and we provide anywhere from like 40 to 80 pounds of food to a family, and that's shelf-stable goods, fresh produce, pre-made meals, protein, and then extra items like household goods when we have them. So we do service, and we're working with Common Ground Health to implement nutrition and healthy eating habits. So we're trying to educate people that you need food, but you also need good food. Workforce development, we partnered with Father Tracy Advocacy Center on a project that's Monroe County wide. We have a workforce development program that reintegrates people into the workforce. So they work technically through Father Tracy, but they spend their time at the pantry about 15 hours a week. And so far we've had about 5 people come through that program. So it's really nice, 15 hours, $15 an hour. They may have been formerly incarcerated or addicted to drugs. We're seeing a lot of problems with the opioid epidemic. And this is a way that we can work with people on a day-to-day basis. And if they are having some difficulty, we're able to work with them where an employer might just cut them and fire them. So we're really proud of that partnership. And then we also have an urban farming program with Cornell Cooperative Extension. They have an urban farm on St. Paul Street. They provide all that food to us, and that's a young adult workforce development program for at-risk young adults. So we're really, really happy about that partnership as well. Last year, we moved like over 1,000 pounds of fresh produce through our pantry. This year, they're expanding to Remington Street. They took 5 vacant lots and turned that into an urban farm. So they've expanded their program, which also expands our program. And we're going to have a CSA at our pantry. Anyone who's interested in volunteering, we're going to have Seed to Supper program. So people in the community can learn how to grow food and then also come to the pantry and reap those rewards of producing the food and that in the community and then eating it afterwards. So really proud of that program as well. So 2024 already, like Kim said, we're seeing an uptick in a lot of these issues that kind of, I think COVID exacerbated a lot of these problems, and now we're seeing the results of that. 2024, we've already served 4,108 households, 13,447 total people. A lot of kids, a lot of adults. On average, we're serving 821 households per month, and that's a lot of food. So we've moved through already through our food link purchases, that's the major food bank in the city, more than 400,000 pounds of food. So you can see the need is incredible, and we're doing our best to help those in need and without bias or discrimination. Really, anyone who wants food or needs food, we help them with that. So we have a great staff, great volunteers. And so some of the things you can see on the right side and in the middle, the middle is a donation from Walmart, the right is a donation from Wegmans. So you see an enormous amount of waste in the US in the food industry. Food that is a day old or a day past Best By date, they won't sell it in Wegmans, but they give it to us for free. And that's really amazing that they do that. But we're able to extend the life of that food for a week or 2 weeks sometimes. It's really not bad. It's just not maybe as presentable in a grocery store. But we use a lot of community resources to provide food, and we're really proud of the partnerships that we have. So that is the end of my presentation. I just wanted to thank the congregation for their wonderful support. Brad has been great, and we're just so appreciative to be out here and be able to meet all the faces that donate to us, and we want to thank you from everyone at the People's Pantry. So appreciate it. Yeah. Of course, we're so happy that we can do what we do every day. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for either Kim or Mike about their programs? Yes, Brad.
First, I'd like to thank all of you who came today, but especially Kim and Mike, who not only came here for the presentation, but worshiped with us. And one comment I had as I was listening to Minister Germani was, I think he was talking a lot about these people and their organizations without perhaps even knowing they were going to be here today. But he was talking about people in need and persevering through hard times and all kinds of things. So I think it really tied together very well. And I just want to thank everyone. And I have one question maybe for Jay. Is this presentation going to be available online along with the worship service, or it is? Okay. Thank you. We'll promote that to the congregation. And there are, I'm sure, several watching now, and including Eleanor Scott, who I believe contacted you, Mike. She's not able to come to church very much, but I'm sure she's there watching. And Joyce Bradstreet, who started the conversation with Kim, of course, is here. And Mary has put a lot of work into this. So I'm sorry, that's too much talking, but please ask other questions.
Check. Wait for the mic. Nancy, wait for the mic. Nancy, here. Okay, we can pass this one. Give that to the speakers, maybe.
All right, you take.
I asked that so I can put it in my phone, how we reach you again. And do you take teenagers or young people for any type of volunteer opportunity
Depending on,
with supervision?
Depending on the age with supervision, yeah. I think it's
Okay.
16 years or younger. We ask that a parent supervises or some
Okay.
adult. But yes, you can find us on the peoples-pantry.org, and we have a contact form there. If you send that, we have a really great volunteer coordinator who can organize that.
Okay, I'll need to get that again.
Yeah, sorry.
All right, thank you. Anybody?
Do you do anything to help educate people as far as, how can they do better shopping? How can they manage, I missed the first part of your presentation, Kim, but managing their budgets, taking advantage of things, is that something you can work on with them, or?
Yes, that is definitely part of the case management that we provide for all the families that we work with, whether it's in the shelter or prevention and diversion. It's easier in the shelter program because they're usually with us. The average length of stay in the shelter program is about 60 days, so that's about 3 months. So during that time, we do try to incorporate we do a really comprehensive budget with every family, and we try to incorporate some financial literacy because a lot of the families never learned how to balance a budget. You know, they don't have that generational support that we've had often to know how to balance a budget or to stretch a budget. So yeah, we focus on that a lot. And in the aftercare, we do as well. So that year after they transition into permanent housing, we can continue to work. Sometimes we even go pick up money to save for them. Like we act as sort of a bank. If they don't have their own bank account, we'll keep it in a file locked just to give them some savings. So we'll also do that.
And we are starting to work on that program. So we're working with Common Ground Health and Cornell Cooperative Extension to kind of integrate some of those nutrition guidelines into the pantry, and then also introductions into like growing food. And we're working with Cornell to start a program for monthly educational offerings at the pantry. So work in progress, but definitely coming to the pantry soon. Yeah.
These gardens are great, but that's only in good weather. So what happens in the winter?
Yeah, so in the winter, it's kind of a struggle for fresh food, and most of what we serve in the winter is either storage crops, potatoes, onions, or we still get the donations from Wegmans, Costco, BJ's, Walmart. So that'll break, most of it's from California, but that still comes in the winter. So we're fortunate for that. Yeah.
And these two new homes you're talking, new buildings, will they have more apartments in them?
Yes, so the two buildings that we are purchasing, we're purchasing for $1, first of all. Yeah, so it was too good to pass up. They do need some renovations, but yes, they each have, one of the buildings has 4 apartments, 2 3-bedroom apartments, 2 2-bedroom apartments, and then some commercial space, which we're thinking we may use as either gathering, like communal space for gathering, and or laundromat kind of, because a lot of families don't have laundry in their houses and apartments. And doing laundry is expensive, so this would just be open, for use. So that's an idea. And then the other a building that we're purchasing is 4 up and down, almost like townhomes, that are 3-bedroom apartments. Yeah, so it will add to the housing stock. Yeah, we're really excited. Yeah.
Do you receive any funding from the government at all?
Yes, we receive limited funding from the government. We don't receive, most of the shelters in Monroe County receive what's called NOFA funding from HUD. And that's channeled through the county into the shelter. It comes with a lot of limitations. For example, the county can tell you how long you can keep a family. So we don't accept that funding because we don't want to abide by a lot of that red tape. Some shelters don't have a choice, they need that funding. So we don't receive that funding so families can stay with us as long as they need to, but we do receive some ESG funding that comes from the city, through the federal government, through the city, to support our shelter, the staffing. And then we receive some emergency food and shelter program money. I don't know, you might receive that too. A little bit of that funding.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Who is it?
I'll take two mics.
No worries.
Do you have any kind of, wow. Yeah, right. Do you have any kind of screening mechanism, or do you track the people in the pantry, that is? Is there any system like that in place, or it's just anybody that comes from day to day?
We have a form that's required by New York State, the TFAP form. So it's basically an attestation form that their income level falls below a certain level. I think that's like 108,000 total income with the household, and they attest to that. And other than that, that's pretty much it. Then we have a database that tracks their family size, basic demographics, just so we know who is coming to the pantry. But that's pretty much it. It's very low barrier. So, a lot of people they're working class, and they might come once a year or once every 3 months. So we like to allow that. Even if they do have income, they can still come in and receive food. Yeah.
I would like to thank everyone for joining us today, and we are very excited to help you and support your missions because they are obviously very, very needed. So I'm going to ask Brad to close us in prayer, and again, thank you so much for attending.
Before I pray, I always forget something when I make comments, but I forgot to thank Jay and the tech crew for staying extra today and to stream this live, but also it'll be available for those who couldn't be here today. So thank you so much. I hope this was as moving to you as it was to me. These just seems to me these are two really high priority needs in our neighborhood or close to our neighborhood. So I'm praying for strong financial support. We have supported these both for many years and wish we could support them more. And we will this summer. So thank you again. Fred? Yes, we do have a goal, which is not guaranteed, of course. We have a goal of $8,000, which we would divide evenly between the two groups. It is what it is, or it is what it will be, but that's our goal. Thank you. That was a great question. Okay, let us pray. Heavenly Father, I've been so blessed and hopefully so inspired by everything this morning. Starting with Pastor Giovanni's sermon, and Kim and Mike's updating us on these two wonderful organizations that are close to our houses and doorsteps. We just pray that we will be inspired as a congregation to donate to the summer mission, and perhaps there even be some volunteers inspired from our church. We just thank you so much for this opportunity today, and we pray all this in your name, Jesus. Amen. Thank you.